Here we are in Anne and Richard Unwin's house. We're having a GMC Reunion 25 years after it closed. And this is my wife Gwen, who's relating about Peter Brown. Tell us, Gwen, about Peter Brown, what he did.
Well, we were on a trip somewhere, and all I can remember was that you were on it, Peter, and Peter Brown and myself. And we were on a train, and we had to change trains at some station.
It was
Peter
Sheffield.
and I were on the train, peering out of the window, and Peter Brown was on the platform, and suddenly announced to all and sundry, "This train's on fire." And it was. There was black smoke coming out of it. I can't remember really what happened after that. But from that moment on, I always associated him with trains and thought he was a railway man. But Peter now tells me he was a postman, so perhaps trains and trains on fire were his hobby.
Well, I came onto the Greater Manchester Council in 1981, and it was a huge landslide in many ways, in that the Labour Party had a large number of seats. I was on the police authority, and I think it was 1984. I was the deputy chairman of the police authority, and one committee that I was on, which I enjoyed quite a lot, was the Recreation and Arts Committee, because of course Greater Manchester Council had a huge, well, compared with local authorities now, a huge budget for organisations like the Halley Orchestra, the Royal Exchange, Manchester Camerata, the Northern Ballet Theatre, and in fact made a very large financial contribution to the running of these artistic organisations in the whole of the Greater Manchester area. And it was not just the centre of Manchester, but also the outlying organisations like the Bolton Octagon Theatre and the Oldham Coliseum all benefited from arts funding from the Greater Manchester Council.
People are now beginning to gather at Richard and Anne Unwin's house, and we'll be talking to some of them in a moment, just to hear what their memories are. Pleased to see some people who are not too well attending, and others who've been around quite a long time. And we have people from all parties, and we can perhaps expect to hear some interesting stories when we speak to them individually. Right, Jean, tell us about this. What is it? Sorry.
About
Fear.
these? Yes. Well, I was just saying I was typecast as chairman of archives when I was on GMC, and this was one of the occasions that we went to the Pioneers Museum in Rochdale, the original shop, and we bought them a showcase, which is shown here, and we also bought them a translation recording, so that they have a lot of foreign visitors, and they can talk to them in their own language. So that was one of the things, and here we are with several of the other typecasts, and including my husband, who helped as a volunteer there and worked for the Corporal's Line. So, and then these are all old. This is when we first came on, and the different.
Can you face it to me, please? That's it. There we are. There we are.
Yeah.
I've got it now. Okay, keep on talking now.
And if you can recognise it, this was me when I started.
1981, gosh.
Very good.
Richard Clegg. I was on GMC just for the last session from 1981 to 1986, representing 3 wards on the west side of Rochdale: Spotland, Brimwood Deeplish and Castleton. I was a Liberal member. This was before the Alliance and then the Coalition, so I was elected as a Liberal. We were a fairly small group. I think there were 10 Liberals elected, led by Keith Whitmore, and so because of our size, we had 2 members in each committee. My main interest, which I kept throughout my time on GMC, was passenger transport. I was a member of that committee for the 5 years that I was there. Took a lead role on that and served in a number of other committees as well. It was a particularly interesting time seeing how those services developed over the county, although I had slightly mixed feelings about the value of GMC as a whole, because we questioned, certainly in Rochdale, I think in a number of other areas where there was a Liberal influence, we felt that the very existence of GMC had taken functions away from a more local level, and we were keen to cascade things back down. But having said that, nevertheless, GMC did an awful lot of good work.
Right, I'm Andrew Fender. I was the member of the Greater Manchester Council for the Hume and Moss Side wards in Manchester. When I joined the GMC, it was overwhelmingly Conservative, so the introduction to political life was one of being in opposition, which was actually a very useful experience. However, in 1981, we took control of the council, and I became chair of the Transportation Strategy Committee, which I'm very pleased to say left a good legacy in terms of we developed the light rail system, which was branded as Metrolink and has been installed and is now being extended to many parts of the conurbation. We did a big job together with yourself on the planning committee and looking at the damage that had been done in the 60s and 70s with aspirations for building hugely expensive major roads which had blighted many areas, and we scrapped many of those and lifted the blight, which enabled a lot of positive development to take place in its stead. Since abolition in '86, in recent years, the value of the council, I think, has been greatly recognised, and in fact, only a couple of months ago in April, the Greater Manchester Combined Authority was formed, and Transport for Greater Manchester Committee is a joint committee of that, which I've recently been appointed to as the chair. So things have come around full circle in those 26 years, certainly in transport, but also in terms of economic development, where the new authority will have a big role, as indeed the GMC aspired to. So I'm very proud of the time that I spent on GMC. It was a very fruitful period, and I'm looking forward to us building on that in the years to come.
Hello, I'm Tony Ullman. I was a member of the GMC from 1981 to 1986. During that time, probably the most interesting period was I spent all of that time as a member of the police authority and 2 years as its deputy chair during a very highly politicised period after the Moss Side riots and so on. And so was responsible for establishing community relations committees, prison lay visitor schemes and a range of other things that I think have now become established part of improving relationships between the police and the community, particularly in deprived areas. I look around Greater Manchester now and I feel that there is a legacy there, not just in those community things, but in things that you can see and touch and feel, like the river valleys, the tram system that Greater Manchester has, much improved public transport, etc. After GMC was abolished, I spent 18 years as a councillor in Salford. I then decided 7 years ago to give it up because I felt I wanted a bit of a life. So I now have a life outside politics, which I thoroughly enjoy.
Hi, I was Vera Dingwall, Deputy Chairman of Wrekin Arts on GMC, and I was distraught when we were done away with. I had to start working again for my living at school. I thoroughly enjoyed my time on GMC, and did many, many things I would never have done had I not been on.
Okay, Peter, it's very pleasant to be with you today, very enjoyable function, and I know that you and other people have spent quite a bit of time organising this. It's quite a labour of love, I'm sure, if you pardon the pun, and since I retired from GMC, as we all did in '86, I was on Bolton Council for 4 years, came off of my own volition. I've devoted my time since, apart from business interests, but to the Civic Trust, of which I'm chairman in Bolton, and to various charities, trying to leave the world a better place than I found it.
Alan Brett, I was a GMC member for Rochdale all those years ago. I was on the Recreation and Arts Committee and the Waste Disposal, and I suppose the best things I enjoyed was in the Recreation and Arts, being involved with the lawn tennis and various other facets. I was also on Northern Ballet, and I once went to a ballet, but I can't say that I enjoyed it. Opera, just about enjoyed it. And the waste disposal was interesting because we spent 20 million. And I remember at one meeting where we built a waste transfer station and we spent 5 million. And I remember asking the clerk, I said, how much is that? He said, 5 million. He said, why do you want to know? I said, I want to go home and tell my wife I've just put my hand up to spend 5 million. That took 20 minutes. The following day we had a recreation committee and it took us nearly an hour to spend £500. When I finished on the GMC, I actually went on Rochdale. I am now retired from politics, elected politics, but I'm still very actively involved in the Labour Party. Thank you.
Hi. My name's Marilyn Aldred, but when I was on the County Council I was called Marilyn Ogden. I was the Vice Chair of the Planning Committee, which I really enjoyed. I found the Planning Committee very, very interesting, and I was also the Chair of the Equal Opportunities Committee, which was a new venture in Greater Manchester, and that was really exciting stuff. That was quite eye-opening for me. I wasn't aware of a lot of the issues, but it has formed a lot of my opinions for the rest of my life. I think the Greater Manchester was an education for me, and really improved my awareness of my surroundings and social structure of Britain and Greater Manchester.
And somebody said, it's free here. I said, it's free at the Northern Lawn Tennis. Anyway, we got there. And of course, Lee's Brewery was in Middleton, and I'd been a teacher there. And of course, so all the kids who were serving, hello Mr. Brett, and they're all bringing extra. And I thought, you don't need any extra because it was all free anyway. But I remember going to the final to watch McEnroe play in the final. I think I took our Charlotte. Yeah, we paid about at Disbury,
Northern, yeah.
Hi everyone, for those who don't remember me, I'm Glenys Butterworth and used to love being on GMC. After it folded I became very involved in the trade union and on retirement got elected to Oldham Council, just serving my second 4-year term. It's been a wonderful day, it's lovely to meet up with everyone. Peter I've bumped into once or twice and one or two other people, and there aren't many of us left now, but we'll all keep on remembering what we did, remembering each other, and keep campaigning for Labour to get everything right.
Hiya, my name's Peter Taverner. I was on Greater Manchester Council for Moston on Lightbound. I was on the Planning Committee, the Finance Committee, and for a short while, for 2 years, was actually Deputy of the Finance Committee. The major feelings I have 25 years on are that we still need a strategic sub-regional authority. And I thought it was a very effective council at the time, and it was abolished for political reasons, but they were a great bunch of people.